Hey, good evening, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Life Inspired. My very, very dear friend TJ Jorgensen is in the house.
I am in the house. I'm always in the house.
You're always in the house. You're just usually on the other side.
I am.
So Thank you for sitting on the couch with us today.
This is different. You know, for so long, I prayed about it and I thought about it. I know we talked about this even back to episode 2.
And, I said I wanted you.
Yeah, and I said, we'll see when the time is right. When God says
right.
the time, and he just said something. He said, get off that chair and go sit in that couch.
Go sit on that couch. Okay, so for our first-time viewers, what we're going to talk about with TJ is we have 3 questions we're going to ask him. So we're always talking about turning points and God stepping in and intervening and turning someone's trajectory to a new path, a new inspired walk. So that's what we're going to ask TJ. What was life like going along before some particular ... and then God moment in your life, and then now how you're walking inspired. So tell us some backstory. I don't know if I know what you're going to share.
I'm going to keep it condensed.
Okay.
And with the exception of some people that may know who I am. A lot of people don't know my backstory. My sister and I were just us 2 siblings, and my mother were very poor, just my mother and us 2 raised in Benton Harbor. And my mom worked really hard. She worked very, very hard. She worked 5 jobs to try to put food on the table, and we still had food stamps and government cheese and things like that. It was really tough life. I remember at some point sleeping on a ground floor, an actual dirt floor.
Wow. This is in America.
I know.
Not that long
this
ago.
Is here in our Michiana area.
Right.
And things were tough, but my mother was such a wonderful person. She kept instilling God is in our life, and we'll pray every night, and we'll pray every morning, and God will provide. That's what she kept saying. And the provision was limited, but He kept us safe. He kept a roof over our house. Sometimes those roofs were shelters. Sometimes they were friends' houses. Sometimes they were beds with 4 or 5 people in them, so we could have a roof. But God always provided. He always kept us a place. We would continue growing up like that until it was about 7th grade. I think it was 8th grade. My mom met an awesome guy, and we moved to Bering Springs, which would become my home for the next several years, and kind of got us out of that element. And I got into school, started getting into some sports, and started paying attention a little bit more. As like a lot of young teenagers, I'm not saying all, but some teenagers, they get distracted with life. Here, try this. So, hey, come with us here. Oh, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And I did that a little bit, nothing too severe, but I did it, and it started to pull me away a little bit. But my mom was there to say, now, Ted, I used to go by Ted. A lot of people don't know that. Ted is my real name. That's a fact.
Okay,
Ted is my real name.
Ted.
Ted is my real name.
I've always wondered what TJ stood for.
Ted is my real name.
Now, Ted.
My wife says, that's what my mom does now, Ted. But my wife says if I introduced myself as Ted, she never would have dated me. So funny story. But anyway, my mother would say, Ted, you got to keep your eye focused and keep God in the front. And I tried. But growing up as a teenager, especially in our home, it was tough.
Well, and she's a woman telling you that, and guys need to learn from guys.
I know.
So you thought you girls need that, I need guy stuff.
Exactly. And even though I had that guy kind of in our life, he wasn't, that stepdad or even definitely father type of material. But he tried, he tried to do what he could. Hung out with some wrong people, and it was until I met my girlfriend when I was 17 that I was getting into some wrong things. And I was with somebody who committed a crime that put me in the place with them, and that got me in trouble, and it got me landed in jail.
Wow. At 17?
Yeah, at 17, 18 years old, somewhere in that range, and it was really tough.
I did not know that.
I was scared. I was like a little boy. That was like 8-year-old boy coming out of me again. But I remember being so scared, and because of what it was, of the kind of theft that it was a situation where there was no bond for a few days, and no matter if my mom could borrow money to get me out, she couldn't. So I was stuck in this cold, dark area with a bunch of criminals that were scary. And I tried to be tough, tried to act tough, but inside I was scared to death. And I would pray, and I would pray, and I would pray, and nothing would happen. I kept praying. I kept my faith strong. I was reading the Bible like crazy. And that's funny because it seems like the people that are in jail, it's like, oh, you come to God now when you have nothing else left. Where were you when you're on the outside? So I love that people that are in jail and people serving prison sentences are serving and they're glorifying God and everything. But when you get out, show me that as well, because that's going to make your journey even stronger. So as I was doing all this, I was praying to God. And then one night I was on my cot area and I was having a panic attack. So they moved me to an area where the doctor could keep an eye on me. It was just anxiety. But it was an overpacked cell, overpacked area. Jails were overflowing. And they put me in a cell with another guy. And it was just a one big cell with one bed. So I slept underneath. I put a mat they gave me, I slept underneath. I had my Bible when I was reading. I came out and was talking to the guy a little bit, and he had a little bit of mental challenges with him and everything. He didn't speak well. His teeth were all gone, probably from drugs or whatever. And I said, do you know anything about the Bible? And he says, in his slurred bad talk, he said, I serve down here. I'm like, well, if you ever want to talk a little bit more about someone bigger than that, I'd love to share that with you.
Like this guy, your prison cellmate, was serving Satan.
Yes, that's what he said. And
wow.
So I was scared of him. I was acting like I didn't, but I was scared to death of him. I went back under sleep underneath my bunk and had my Bible, close to my arms. But when you're sleeping, if you ever fall asleep with the phone in your hand, next thing you know, it's on the floor. So I woke up and my Bible wasn't right by me. Remember, I'm under this bed. And then I was kind of reaching for it. And when you're in jail, your Bible is all you have. Your Bible, maybe some food or whatever.
The fact that they even let you have that was miraculous, right?
It was really cool. The chaplain there was very nice. And this is 30 years ago. I barely remember much of it. But this stood out to me so strong. I woke up and I saw him sitting on the bed reading the Bible. Wow. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I just went back under my cot, went back to sleep. I woke up the next morning and I asked him, I said, hey, did you look at my Bible? Do you have any questions? He said, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I wasn't dreaming it, but if you have some questions about it, I'd love to talk. I said it, and he got really mad. I said I wasn't me. And then he went off, stormed off to the other side of our little cell, a little bigger than this area. Could be, could be a lot of things. And then eventually, my mother, when she came to visit me a couple days later, she said a local nun felt that God called her to come bail me out. So I got bailed out, and fast forwarding on this particular part, it was all just washed, time served. I was just a scared kid with someone else, blah, blah, blah. But that moment, when I witnessed to that guy, I went back to see him again. I wanted to follow up. So there was this guy who had later passed away, a police officer that worked in the jail. He passed away. But I remember going up to him and I said, hey, do you remember me? I was here, and I want to see if I can visit with blah, blah, blah. And he said, yeah, I remember you, blah, 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 but you're the only one in that cell. I said, no, I wasn't. There was a guy in my cell. I know who I was talking to. He said, you know what, Theodore? That's my real name, Theodore. He said, Theodore, we always thought it was weird that you slept under your cot, under your bed. And my mom was right there next to me. She's like looking at me like, because I told her everything. And they were like, Mr. Jorgensen, there was nobody else in your cell. You were the only one. I said, you walked by me and saw me with my Bible, pointing it out and talking with this guy. He said, yeah, we thought you were just your anxiety, that you were just talking to yourself a lot. And I was like, wow. What happened? So that night, and this, I remember like it happened yesterday, I sat in bed, just blown away. Like these things don't happen in life, all right? Obviously, I'm trying to use science a little bit. My faith is strong, but I tried to use a little bit of science. Okay, maybe it was, maybe anxiety got to me and something hallucinating, right. Something happened. I prayed, and I was like, God, what is going on? I'm a scared kid. I'm just about to finish high school. I'm figure out what's going on with my life. And then this happens. Then you get me out, and then this happens. What's going on? And then right there on my bed sits my vision of Christ, right there in my bed. Now, we all have our vision of Christ, whether it's an actor, whether it's a guy you saw someone look like him, or maybe it's just what God visions to you. My God, my Jesus was sitting right next to me. And I was scared as I can be. I feel like I'm scared now. He was sitting right next to me. And then I was like, what are you doing here? And I said, I've been talking to you for almost 20 years. Why did it take the worst thing right now for you to sit down here and talk back to me? And he said, Ted, the most beautiful voice I've ever heard in my life. He said, Ted, I've been talking to you for almost 20 years. You just now decided to start listening. Wow. And that point, Diane, was my turning point. And I said, I will do whatever you want me to do. I'm done trying to figure things out. And I would go through challenges. I would go through a tough marriage. My wife, now my ex-wife, we have a great relationship. We've raised some amazing kids together. But it was tough. I was young, and some things that happened to me and when I was young made my marriage even tougher. And my wife was amazing back then, but I didn't see it. But my faith was strong. And I persevered. Fast forward later, I went on to meet my amazing wife now, Courtney. And we've been together 15 years, have beautiful kids together. We have a great big family between my sons from my first marriage and my 4 daughters today. God has blessed me very well. It has nothing to do with monetary. I have billions of problems just like everyone else.
Right.
But that one moment is when God said, I need you. I need you to do that for me. And then I did it. And who knows what happens today or what happened back then. Was it an illusion? Was it God placing an angel in my cell? Was God in my cell in his own little incognito way to get me to pay attention? I don't know.
Right.
But my mom is a prayer warrior, very much like you. My mom would pray and pray and pray, please save my son, keep him straight, keep him positive, keep him strong, despite the environment that we're in. What can you do, God? And this is how God answered her. This is how God answered us. And here we are today.
Okay, I want your mom on the couch.
My mom's a wonderful woman. She's every Father's Day, I said that right, every Father's Day I call her, and I tell her Happy Father's Day. I said thank you for being mom and dad. Many people talk about their heroes, whether that's Michael Jordan, when I was a kid, Hulk Hogan was real big, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson today, and things like that. My hero was my mom, and she's worked so hard. She's a frail little woman that's just been beat up in life. She's been through so much. She wrote a story that is going to be published eventually that she says we're not allowed to read. My sister and I are not allowed to read because it's probably something really, really tough.
It's like after she's
things
gone?
When we were young. She probably wants us to read it when she's gone, but she'll be here for hopefully many more years.
Long time yet. Yeah.
But yes, my mom is incredible. She's super.
All right, I want you to talk to her and tell her.
I will for sure.
Tell her story. I'm sorry for crying, you guys.
Yeah, I was trying to keep it together, man.
I didn't know all this. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so I always ask because just like, your fingerprint's different than everybody else's fingerprint. It's a little bit like somebody's. So somebody that's watching needs to hear how you stay inspired every day. What is it that you do to hear him? You haven't had him sit on your bed since then, have you?
You are correct. He has not sat in my bed. But he shows himself in so many different ways. He shows himself every time that we shoot this show. He shows himself when I kneel down, and for those watching this, before we do our show, we pray. And Diane asked me 70-some episodes ago to come pray. So I said, and I pray for the person that's on the couch with Diane. I pray for the 3 of us. And I have no idea what I'm going to say. I literally walk up and it's like, God, feed me the words. And he does, just like that. So he reveals himself right here. He reveals himself when I walk in to my work every day. And, having Dan and the team we have here, he shows himself that way. Mm-hmm. Shows himself when I see my wife. And my wife had no idea how, she knew a little bit about Christianity and stuff, but she didn't know. I took her to GCC 15 years ago, and she's like, wow, this is what everyone's been talking about. Wow. And now my wife's on fire for Christ. That's awesome. So he shows himself to me every day like that. The funniest thing, and just real brief, I don't like to bother God with things like, man, God, I really want the Cubs to win today. I figure he's got some more important things to do. But I'll bother him with little things like, I've misplaced my keys. I'm pushing the button and I can't find it.
Ask him what to wear.
I will
like,
what do I wear today, God?
What should I put on today?
That should be a TV show. What God thinks you should wear today. But I would say things like, I can't find my keys. And I'm just, God, I'm going to slow down. Can you help me point them out? And I swear, Diane,
he gives them to you right away.
He shows them to me. It is so amazing. And my wife will say, did you check there? I'm like, give it a minute. Give him a minute. Yeah. So he shows himself in many ways. And when my youngest daughter, Eliana, she is on fire for Christ too. At 6 years old, you can just see her when she prays. She's so sympathetic and emphatic and empathetic. She just loves people so much. That's how Christ shows himself to me every day.
That's so cool. Very cool. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so you guys, if you know somebody that needs to hear this story, maybe a mom whose son has just got put in jail. She needs to hear the hope that God's talking to her son. Who knows? I don't know who you need to share it with, but you can share it from, we're available several different places on YouTube, on Facebook, on inspiredhomes.com. If you can share the link with someone that needs to hear the story, please do. And if you know somebody that needs to tell their story, we'd like to know that as well. Thank you so much for tuning in, and you guys have a great week.
Bye-bye.